Music mogul Sean "Diddy" Combs spent his first night behind bars inside a facility that is being called Hell on Earth.
Prosecutors say Sean "Diddy" Combs is trying to obstruct justice from inside jail.
And of course, I already know who some of these individuals are, but because of the nature of this case, we're going to make damn sure that we're right before we do that.
According to our sources, Diddy is not being housed in a solitary cell.
The government's accusations were made in a Manhattan federal court filing late Friday, opposing the music mogul's latest $50 million bail proposal.
And what's more surprising, the sources say he could still get his free con, so to speak.
Combs is accused of reaching out to prospective witnesses in an attempt to influence the public's opinion while being held on trafficking charges.
There is apparently a secret system that inmates on the block all seem to know about, a way to spy on the female inmates who are housed one floor below them.
The day will come when we will name names other than Sean Combs, and there's a lot of names. It's a long list already.
It's a dormitory Puff Daddy's in. He's not in cells. So there's a big dorm with a bunch of bunks, and then there's a little room where you go into.
Donald Trump's former fixer, Michael Cohen, spent a harrowing year in federal custody. He says for someone used to a life of luxury like Diddy, prison life is a severe shock.
Females are right below you, and you could just yell at them, and they yell back, and basically, like, you could kind of see them, and they could see you a little bit, but you have to watch out for the guards, obviously.
Sean "Diddy" Combs is now behind bars at the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, in Brooklyn, an infamous place that many call Hell on Earth. The feds have finally decided to stop playing it cool with this notorious Brooklyn jail. This time, all eyes are on MDC Brooklyn, where none other than Sean "Diddy" Combs is serving his sentence for some seriously heavy charges. And just when you thought the drama couldn't get any crazier, Monday's multi-agency operation turned the facility into something straight out of a gripping crime story. We're talking K-9 units combing every inch of the place, ensuring not even a hint of anything suspicious goes unnoticed. But what exactly did they find? And why is everyone totally freaking out over it? Let's be real. The raid at MDC Brooklyn on Monday was anything but ordinary. This wasn't just another routine inmate check. It had the intensity of a scene straight out of a must-watch thriller. The FBI, DEA, and NYPD didn't just pop in for a casual visit. They stormed the place like they were on a mission with high stakes. Sure, officials said there was no active threat, but come on. You don't roll out a full-blown federal task force with K-9s unless something serious is going down. This whole situation is raising more questions than answers. What were they really searching for, and what dark secrets are hidden behind those prison walls that have everyone freaking out? The Bureau of Prisons tried to brush it off, claiming the massive operation was all part of the plan. Oh sure, because nothing screams business as usual, like a surprise full-scale inspection, right? It almost felt like they were sending a bold message to everyone locked behind those walls, and maybe to the public too, about who's really in charge. Now, if you're wondering if Sean "Diddy" Combs had anything to do with this heavy-handed show of force from law enforcement, the official story says a solid nope. But come on, are we really supposed to believe this is just some wild coincidence? The timing is seriously fishy. Diddy's the latest high-profile name to join MDC Brooklyn's not-so-exclusive club of infamous inmates. This place has become the ultimate who's who of fallen celebrities. You've got R. Kelly, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Sam Bankman-Fried all hanging out in this grimy joint. Forget red carpets. This place is all about cold, brutal steel bars. A-list parties? More like an endless, real-life horror show. Adding even more fuel to the fire, the facility itself has been getting major heat lately. Not because of its celebrity inmates, but because of the truly horrific conditions inside. We're talking about a place so bad that some judges have flat-out refused to send anyone there. The complaints read like they came straight out of a medieval horror story. Rats scurrying through cells, a crippling staff shortage that leaves inmates without basic protection, and a gloomy, depressing atmosphere that makes you wonder how this place is still standing. The Bureau of Prisons suddenly acting like they care about safety almost feels like a bad joke. Meanwhile, Diddy's legal team, which includes big names like Mark Agiff and the famous Tom Gagos, is working non-stop to get him out of this nightmare. They're even pushing for a transfer to a New Jersey facility, which apparently offers slightly better conditions, because who knew even jail cells had a pecking order? But for now, Diddy's still stuck at MDC Brooklyn on what's been called a routine self-harm watch. Routine or not, it's impossible not to think about Jeffrey Epstein, whose own stint in federal custody ended in a dark, highly controversial way. No one needs reminding about that scandal, but the whole situation has everyone on edge, adding yet another layer of unease to an already tense atmosphere. Remember the Manhattan Federal Jail where Epstein was held, the one with malfunctioning cameras and guards who dozed off the night he died? Well, that place is temporarily closed, which has shifted the spotlight to MDC Brooklyn, now with Diddy in the mix. The plot is practically writing itself. Let's rewind to the raid, or rather the full-scale operation. Sources say it was an all-out sweep with agents going cell to cell like they were hunting for treasure. Officially, it's called a routine check, but when have we ever seen such a massive operation for that? It feels more like a power move. A stark reminder that fame means nothing behind bars. The Bureau of Prisons hides behind vague excuses like ensuring a safe environment, but come on, if they really cared, they'd need more than just a routine sweep. Meanwhile, Combs continues to maintain his innocence as civil lawsuits pile up. His trial is scheduled for May, but until then he's stuck sharing a cell with the ghosts of fallen celebrities, while all eyes are on the grim halls of MDC Brooklyn. The grim reality of MDC Brooklyn is impossible to ignore. The conditions are chaotic, to say the least. Overcrowded cells, terrible food, and now federal raids have turned this place into a nightmare. Inmates have been subjected to lockdowns with no electricity, and the food situation has been described as borderline inhumane. Amid all this chaos, Diddy's legal team is fighting to get him moved, arguing that the jail is too dangerous, but the prosecution isn't backing down, insisting that Diddy should suffer just like any other inmate. Once the king of New York, Diddy now faces the harsh truth of federal prison life. The law is intent on proving that no one is above it, but let's not forget this same system turned a blind eye to his past wrongdoings when it suited them. The whole self-harm watch thing feels like more of a PR stunt after the Epstein fiasco, with the Bureau scrambling to protect its tarnished reputation. Before Diddy, MDC housed infamous figures like R. Kelly and Ghislaine Maxwell, whose defense teams called the conditions unbearable. Now, MDC Brooklyn's reputation is defined by its horrendous conditions rather than its high-profile inmates. For the average inmate, life inside is even worse. But without the added spotlight Diddy's name brings to this grim list. But let's not lose sight of the real tragedy here, the broken system that devours inmates with no fame or resources. When crypto mogul Sam Bankman-Fried was held at MDC Brooklyn after his entire empire crumbled in 2023, he got a first-hand look at how bad things could get. He witnessed the lack of proper medical care, the total disregard for privacy, and the miserable conditions inmates endure. While his legal team raged about the situation, it felt like screaming into a hurricane. MDC Brooklyn isn't just another detention center. It's a place that drags everyone down to the same miserable, soul-crushing existence. R&B superstar turned convicted criminal R. Kelly also had his turn at MDC, with his legal team quick to point out the facility's lack of health care and its complete disregard for mental health. Sure, Kelly's story made waves, but the harsh truth is that these same complaints about health care are echoed by countless other inmates, just without the fame and media spotlight. Then there's Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's former fixer. He spent time at MDC, desperately trying to avoid rat infestations and praying that the lack of hygiene didn't take him out before the violence did. Cohen's testimony stunned the public, but for those already stuck at MDC, his words were nothing new. They were just confirmation of what everyone already knew. MDC is as close to a real-life dystopia as it gets. Smallville actress Allison Mack, who became notorious as a lieutenant in the NXIVM cult, described her time there as one where isolation and poor nutrition nearly shattered her. Sure, her fall from TV stardom to MDC inmate made for juicy tabloid fodder, but the suffering she endured was just part of the same cycle of mental breakdowns and slow decay that so many others face at MDC. It's the kind of suffering no one really wants to see, but it happens every day in the shadows. And then there's Martin Shkreli, the infamous villain of overpriced pharmaceuticals. He probably thought that his money and status could make his time in 1600 a little easier. Spoiler alert, it didn't. He had to endure the same horrific conditions as thousands of other inmates. Filthy living spaces, non-existent health care, and more suffering than he could have ever imagined when he was ruling his cushy Wall Street empire. Then there's Tekashi 669, who likely thought his stint at MDC would add some gritty material to his gangster rap persona. Turns out MDC isn't just a prison with bars, it's a brutal, unsafe cage. Hernandez learned the hard way that in 1600 you're not just serving time, you're living in constant fear and violence. His lawyers fought for home confinement, citing the overwhelming danger and lack of protection. But for most inmates without a legal team or cash to back them up, that kind of terror is an everyday reality. Then there's the former president of Honduras, now facing trial for substance trafficking. What a dramatic fall from grace, right? He ended up at MDC, where his legal team quickly complained about the total lack of medical care and the sky-high violence. But honestly, who expected anything else? MDC doesn't care if you're a former world leader or a gangster. To them, you're just another number in their overcrowded, decaying system. Here's the harsh truth. For every celebrity making headlines, there are thousands of other inmates whose names we'll never hear. Welcome to the Intake Segregation Unit at MDC Brooklyn, where individuals are housed in high-security administrative segregation. This unit holds inmates with maximum security classifications, like Christopher Cook, who's charged with attempted murder after allegedly shooting a police officer. While this high-profile case might catch the media's eye, the real story is about the facility itself, a broken system designed to crush its inmates. MDC Brooklyn is a facility plagued by systemic issues: overcrowding, underfunding, poor oversight, and a pervasive culture of neglect. While the media may focus on high-profile cases like Christopher Cook's, the real, pressing issues of the facility remain unchanged. The Bureau of Prisons, more concerned with optics, has increased security measures, sending in agents and even conducting raids. But none of these actions address the fundamental flaws within the system. Inside MDC Brooklyn, inmates face daily psychological challenges, not only from potential illegal substances, but from a constant power dynamic where authorities ensure they never forget who holds the control. While Sean Diddy's legal team may try to leverage media attention or push for a transfer, the system has shown time and again that it is unyielding, especially when the goal is to make an example out of someone. Recently, federal agents conducted a raid at the facility, an operation designed to remind inmates and the public that no one is exempt from scrutiny. Complete with tactical agents and drug-sniffing dogs, the operation seemed less about addressing immediate safety concerns and more about reinforcing a system built on control and intimidation. Though it may appear to be a step in the right direction, this raid does little to fix the facility's deep-rooted issues. For Sean Diddy Combs, the reality of incarceration at MDC Brooklyn is a harsh contrast to his former life of luxury and power. Stripped of the comforts he's accustomed to, he now faces the same inhumane conditions as countless other inmates: poor food, inadequate health care, and overcrowded cells. The emotional toll on him and his defense team is palpable, but the family's public display of solidarity underscores a harsh truth. No one, not even the most powerful moguls, is immune to the justice system's grip. Despite their efforts, Diddy's legal team has faced an uphill battle. They've offered a $50 million bail package, including house arrest, ankle monitors, and daily logs, hoping to sway the court. However, the judge remains unconvinced, citing Diddy's history of behavior and the risk he might flee if granted bail. The prospect of facing time in a facility with such notorious conditions only adds to the weight of his legal troubles. As MDC Brooklyn continues to operate, the cycle of scrutiny and indignity persists. Agents come and go while the media fixates on every detail of the case. Meanwhile, the facility's inmates, including Diddy, endure the harsh realities of a broken system, one that shows little regard for their dignity or well-being. This case serves as a grim reminder that the justice system, regardless of one's wealth or fame, is often a cold, indifferent entity. Diddy's current battle, fighting not only the charges against him but also the conditions of his confinement, marks the beginning of a long, difficult struggle. Regardless of the outcome, the larger problem remains unchanged. A flawed, unyielding system that continues to operate with little to no real reform, affecting those caught within it, whether they're infamous or unknown.